Captain Ben Walsh checked his uniform one last time before stepping off the transport ship. The crystalline world of Zephyr stretched out before him like a dream made of glass and light. Massive spires of pure crystal reached toward the purple sky, each one singing with a low, musical hum that seemed to vibrate through his bones. "First time seeing a crystalline world, Captain?" asked Dr. Lisa Chen, his chief science officer. She adjusted her data pad and looked around with wonder. "First time for all of us," Ben replied. He had studied the briefing materials for months, but nothing had prepared him for the reality of Zephyr. The entire planet seemed to be alive, breathing music into the air. Their mission was simple in theory but complex in practice. Earth needed rare minerals to power their expanding space fleet. Zephyr had those minerals in abundance. The Crystalline Empire had agreed to meet with human representatives to discuss mining rights. Ben's job was to make sure those talks went smoothly. "Remember, they communicate through harmonic frequencies," said Tom Rodriguez, their cultural specialist. "Their language is basically music. Our translators should handle most of it, but try to keep your voices calm and steady." The third member of their team, engineer Maya Patel, was busy scanning the crystal formations around them. "These readings are incredible," she said. "The entire city is one giant resonance chamber. Every building is connected through harmonic frequencies." A delegation of Zephyrans approached them across the Crystal Plaza. Ben had seen images of the alien species in his briefings, but seeing them in person was breathtaking. They looked like living sculptures made of clear, colored crystal. Light passed through their bodies, creating rainbow patterns that shifted with their movements. When they walked, their feet created soft musical notes against the crystal ground. The lead Zephyrin stepped forward and spoke in a voice like wind chimes. The translator device on Ben's collar turned the musical sounds into words. "Welcome to Zephyr, humans from Earth. I am Counselor Zahn of the Royal Court. Her Highness Princess Vera awaits your arrival at the Palace of Echoes." Ben bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Counselor Zahn. I am Captain Ben Walsh. These are my team members Dr. Chen, Specialist Rodriguez, and Engineer Patel. We are honored by your invitation." The Zephyrans led them through the Crystal City. Everything around them hummed with life. The buildings themselves seemed to be singing, creating a complex symphony that rose and fell like breathing. Children made of small, bright crystals played in the streets, their laughter sounding like tiny bells. Adult Zephyrans moved with grace, their bodies catching and reflecting sunlight in brilliant displays. "It's like walking through a musical instrument," Maya whispered. The Palace of Echoes rose before them like a mountain of pure light. It was the largest structure Ben had ever seen, its spires reaching so high they seemed to touch the clouds. The walls were transparent, but they bent light in ways that created constantly shifting patterns of color. "The palace has stood for 10,000 of your years," Counselor Zahn explained as they climbed the musical steps. Each step produced a different note, creating a melody as they walked. "It was built to amplify and preserve the songs of our people. Every important moment in our history is recorded in its crystals." They entered a vast hall where hundreds of Zephyrans had gathered. The sound of their collective presence was overwhelming, like standing inside a cathedral while a choir sang. Ben felt the music in his chest, in his bones, in his very soul. At the far end of the hall, on a throne made of singing crystal, sat Princess Vera. Ben had expected her to be impressive, but he was not prepared for what he saw. Princess Vera was tall and elegant, her crystal form shifting between shades of blue and silver. Patterns of light moved through her transparent body like slow lightning. Her face was beautiful in an alien way, with features that were sharp but graceful. When she moved, the air around her seemed to shimmer with music. The human delegation approached the throne. Other Zephyrans stepped aside to let them pass. Ben could feel hundreds of crystalline eyes watching them, and he heard the gentle musical conversations of the court around him. Princess Vera rose from her throne. She was even more impressive standing, nearly 8 feet tall, her crystal form catching and throwing light in all directions. She opened her mouth to speak, the beginning of a welcoming song forming in her throat. Then she saw Ben. Princess Vera stopped completely. Her song cut off in the middle of a note. Her entire body went rigid, becoming perfectly still like a statue. The light patterns inside her crystal form froze in place. The silence that followed was shocking. In a world where everything sang, the sudden absence of sound was like a physical blow. Every Zephyrin in the hall turned to stare. Their musical conversations died away until the only sound was the distant humming of the palace walls. Ben felt confused and worried. Had he done something wrong? He looked down at himself, checking his uniform and appearance. Everything seemed normal. He glanced at his team members, but they looked just as puzzled as he felt. Counselor Zahn stepped forward quickly, his crystal form flickering with what Ben guessed might be nervousness. He sang something rapid and urgent to Princess Vera, but she did not respond. She continued to stare at Ben with an expression he could not read. "Your Highness," Ben said carefully, "if I have offended you in some way, please accept my apologies. We are here in peace and friendship." At the sound of his voice, Princess Vera seemed to wake from her trance. She took a step backward, then another. Her crystal form began to glow brighter, and Ben could see something that shocked him, what looked like tears forming in her alien eyes. "I must go," Princess Vera said suddenly, her voice shaking the crystals around them. "Counselor Zahn will handle the negotiations." Before anyone could respond, she turned and fled from the hall. Her footsteps created a sad melody as she ran, the notes echoing off the crystal walls long after she had disappeared. The entire court erupted in musical conversations. Ben caught fragments through his translator, words like "impossible," "ancient signs," and "the prophecy." But none of it made sense to him. Counselor Zahn looked deeply troubled. His crystal form had shifted to darker colors, and his voice carried notes of distress when he spoke. "Please forgive Princess Vera's reaction," he said. "She has been under much stress lately. Perhaps we should continue with the formal introductions and then proceed to our discussions." The rest of the ceremony passed in a blur. Ben met various court officials, each one bowing politely but watching him with curious, wary eyes. The formal presentations went according to plan, but he could feel the tension in the air. Something was very wrong, and he had no idea what it was. When they were finally escorted to their guest quarters in the palace, Ben's team immediately began discussing what had happened. "That was not normal behavior," Tom said, pacing around their crystal-walled room. "According to all our cultural studies, Zephyrans are extremely polite and formal. A princess would never just run away from a diplomatic meeting." "Did you notice how she looked at you specifically?" Lisa asked Ben. "Not at all of us, just at you. There's something about you personally that affected her." Maya was scanning the walls with her instruments. "These crystals are incredibly advanced. They're not just decorative, they're storing and processing information. This whole palace is basically a giant computer made of living crystal." "But what kind of information?" Ben wondered aloud. "And why would it matter who I am?" Their conversation was interrupted by a soft musical knock at their door. Ben opened it to find a young Zephyrin servant, his crystal form a bright, cheerful yellow. "Captain Walsh," the servant sang, "I am Kip. I have been assigned to help you during your stay. If you need anything, please let me know." "Thank you, Kip," Ben replied. "Actually, I do have a question. Did we do something wrong during the ceremony?" Princess Vera seemed upset. Kip's crystal form flickered nervously. "Oh no, honored guest, you did nothing wrong. It is just that Princess Vera has many responsibilities weighing on her mind these days." "What kind of responsibilities?" Kip glanced around nervously before answering. "There are signs in the sky, Captain Walsh. Our astronomers have detected unusual activity in our sun. Some fear that difficult times may be coming." Before Ben could ask more questions, Kip quickly excused himself and hurried away, his footsteps playing a nervous tune on the crystal floor. That evening, the human delegation attended a formal dinner in the Great Hall. The food was unlike anything they had ever experienced, crystalline fruits that tasted like music, and drinks that seemed to glow with their own light. The Zephyrin nobles were polite and welcoming, but Ben noticed that many of them kept glancing at him when they thought he was not looking. Princess Vera did not attend the dinner. She sends her regrets, Counselor Zahn explained when Ben asked. Important matters of state require her attention. The next morning, the formal negotiations began. Ben and his team met with a council of Zephyrin officials in a chamber designed specifically for diplomatic meetings. The room was beautiful, with walls that changed color based on the emotions of the speakers and a ceiling that showed moving patterns of light. The talks proceeded smoothly. The Zephyrans were interested in Earth's technology, particularly their methods for space travel and communication. In exchange, they were willing to grant mining rights for certain rare minerals. Ben was pleased with the progress they were making. But Princess Vera was still notably absent. Perhaps Princess Vera could join us for tomorrow's sessions, Ben suggested during a break. As the heir to the throne, her input would be valuable. Counselor Zahn's crystal form dimmed slightly. The princess is dealing with personal matters at the moment. I assure you that she supports these negotiations fully. That afternoon, Ben decided to explore the palace on his own. He told his team he wanted to get a better understanding of Zephyrin culture, but the truth was that he was worried about Princess Vera. Her reaction to him had been so strange and emotional. He felt responsible somehow, even though he could not understand why. The palace was enormous, with countless halls and chambers connected by corridors that sang with different melodies. Ben followed the music, letting it guide him through the crystalline maze. He passed libraries where knowledge was stored in singing crystals, workshops where artisans shaped light itself into beautiful sculptures, and gardens where crystal plants grew in impossible geometries. Eventually, he found himself in a quieter section of the palace. The music here was softer, more contemplative. He could hear a sad melody coming from somewhere nearby, a single voice singing alone. Ben followed the sound until he came to a balcony overlooking the Crystal City. Princess Vera stood there, her back to him, singing a mournful song that made his heart ache even though he could not understand the words. "Your Highness," he said softly. Princess Vera spun around, startled. When she saw him, her song stopped abruptly, just as it had in the throne room. For a moment, they stared at each other in silence. "I'm sorry," Ben said. "I didn't mean to disturb you. I was just exploring the palace and heard your song." Princess Vera's crystal form was shimmering with what Ben had learned to recognize as strong emotion. "You should not be here," she said, but her voice was not angry. It was sad and confused. "If I've done something to offend you, please tell me what it was," Ben said earnestly. "I want to understand. Our people need to work together, and I don't want my presence to cause problems." Princess Vera was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. "It is not what you have done," she said. "It is who you are. I don't understand." Princess Vera looked at him with eyes that seemed to hold thousands of years of sadness. "Tell me, Captain Walsh, do you know anything about your ancestry? Your family history?" Ben was surprised by the question. "Some. My family came from Ireland originally, but that was many generations ago. We've been space travelers for the past few generations. My grandfather was one of the first human deep space explorers." "Why do you ask?" Princess Vera's entire body seemed to glow brighter at his words. She took a step closer, studying his face intently. "Your grandfather," she whispered. "What was his name?" "Patrick Walsh. He disappeared on an exploration mission about 60 years ago. His ship was lost in deep space. They never found him or his crew." The Crystal Princess made a sound that the translator could not convert, something between a gasp and a musical cry. She staggered backward as if Ben had struck her. 60 years, she repeated. 60 Earth years. Before Ben could ask what she meant, Princess Vera turned and ran away again, her footsteps creating a melody of despair that echoed through the crystal halls. That night, Ben could not sleep. He kept thinking about Princess Vera's questions and her reaction to his answers. What did his grandfather's disappearance have to do with anything? And why did the timeline seem so important to her? He was lying in his crystalline bed, staring at the ceiling where patterns of light moved like slow fireworks, when he heard voices in the corridor outside his room. The Zephyrin guards were talking in low, musical tones, but his translator was still picking up their words. The resemblance is unmistakable, one guard was saying. He carries the forbidden resonance in his very soul. But how is it possible? Asked another. The ancient records say they all died saving us. How can one of their bloodline be here now? Perhaps the universe has sent him to us for a reason, said the first guard. The signs in the sky grow stronger each day. Our sun shows the same patterns as before the Great Leaving. Silence, commanded a third voice, one that Ben recognized as belonging to a senior officer. These matters are not for us to discuss. Return to your duties. The voices faded as the guards moved away, but Ben lay awake for hours thinking about what he had heard. The forbidden resonance. They all died saving us. The Great Leaving. What did any of it mean? And why did he suddenly feel that his arrival on Zephyr was not the coincidence he had thought it was? The next morning brought disturbing news. Maya burst into their breakfast room with her scanning equipment in hand, her face pale with worry. Ben, we have a problem, she said. I've been monitoring the local sun since we arrived, just out of curiosity. The readings I'm getting are not good. What kind of readings? Ben asked. Solar flare activity is increasing rapidly. And not just normal flares, these are massive electromagnetic disturbances. If the pattern continues, this entire solar system could be in serious danger within the next few months. Lisa looked up from her crystal fruit breakfast. Danger how? The kind of solar storm that could strip away planetary atmospheres, Maya said grimly. Or cook everything on the surface with radiation. It would be a extinction-level event. Tom whistled low. That explains why the Zephyrans have been acting so strange. They must know about this. Ben thought about the guard's conversation the night before. The Great Leaving, he murmured. What? Lisa asked. Nothing. Just something I overheard. Ben stood up, his mind racing. We need to talk to Princess Vera. If their son is becoming unstable, our negotiations about mining rights are the least of anyone's worries. But when they asked to speak with Princess Vera, Counselor Zahn informed them that she had locked herself in the palace archive and would not see anyone. She is researching historical records, Zahn explained, but his crystal form was dim with worry. She has been there for 2 days now, ever since the night she spoke with Captain Walsh. Ben felt a growing certainty that whatever was happening on Zephyr was connected to him personally. The coincidence was too great, his arrival, Princess Vera's strange reaction, the solar crisis, and the mysterious references to his grandfather and the forbidden resonance. I need to speak with her, Ben said firmly. If there's a connection between my presence here and what's happening with your son, we need to understand it. Counselor Zahn hesitated. The archive is sacred, Captain Walsh. Only members of the royal family are permitted entry. Then ask her to come out and talk to me, Ben insisted. People's lives may be at stake. After much discussion, Counselor Zahn agreed to carry a message to Princess Vera. He returned an hour later with a strange expression on his crystalline features. Princess Vera will see you, he said. But only you, Captain Walsh. And only in the archive itself. She says there are things you must see to understand. Ben's team wanted to come with him, but he decided to go alone. Whatever secret Princess Vera was hiding, it seemed to be personal to him. He followed Counselor Zahn through corridors he had not seen before, deeper into the heart of the palace. The archive was unlike anything Ben had ever imagined. It was a vast chamber filled with towering crystal formations, each one glowing with stored information. The air itself seemed thick with memory and music. Princess Vera stood at the center of it all, surrounded by floating holographic images that showed scenes from Zephyran history. "Captain Walsh," she said without turning around. "Come here. There is something you must see." Ben approached carefully. The holographic images swirled around him, showing crystal cities, space ships, and most surprisingly, humans. "This is the record of the Great Leaving," Princess Vera said, her voice heavy with emotion. "It happened 2,000 years ago by our reckoning. 60 years ago by yours." The images focused on a particular scene, a human spacecraft approaching a planet that looked like Zephyra, but different somehow. The sun in that image was angry red, throwing off massive flares that lit up space like fireworks. "Our original home world," Princess Vera explained. "When our sun began to die, we thought we were doomed. Our technology could build cities and store knowledge, but we could not travel between the stars. We were trapped." The hologram showed human figures stepping out of their spacecraft to meet a crowd of desperate Zephyrans. Ben leaned closer, trying to see their faces clearly. "Then the humans came," Princess Vera continued. "A small exploration ship, lost in space, following a distress signal we had been broadcasting for years. They did not understand our language at first, but they understood our danger." Ben watched the holographic humans working alongside the Zephyrans, building something together. "Ships," he realized. "Evacuation ships. They helped us design vessels that could carry our entire population to safety," Princess Vera said. "Used their knowledge of space travel and their ability to improvise solutions we could never have imagined. In 6 months, they helped us build a fleet that could carry millions of Zephyrans to a new home." The hologram showed the Great Evacuation, massive crystal ships leaving the dying world, carrying the hope of an entire species. "But the humans," Princess Vera's voice broke. "They stayed behind to ensure the last ships could escape safely. The solar storm that destroyed our home world killed them all." Ben felt his heart stop as the hologram focused on the face of one of the human heroes. The man was older than Ben, with gray in his hair and lines around his eyes, but the resemblance was unmistakable. It was his grandfather, Patrick Walsh. Ben stared at the holographic image of his grandfather, unable to speak. Patrick Walsh stood on an alien world 60 years ago, his hand raised in farewell as massive crystal ships lifted off into space around him. The image showed him smiling, even though he knew he would never see home again. "That's impossible," Ben whispered. "My grandfather's ship was lost in deep space. There were no records of him ever reaching another world." Princess Vera waved her hand, and the hologram changed to show the interior of a human spacecraft. Ben recognized the old Earth Federation designs from history books. Inside the ship, several human crew members were working frantically at control panels while explosions rocked the vessel around them. "They came here by accident," Princess Vera explained, her crystal form glowing with soft blue light. "Their ship was damaged in a solar storm near your Earth. They were trying to reach a Federation outpost when they picked up our distress signal." The hologram showed Patrick Walsh and his crew debating among themselves. Ben could not hear their words, but he could see the determination in their faces. 6 humans, Princess Vera continued. Captain Patrick Walsh, Engineer Sarah Kim, Navigator David Chen, Communications Officer Rosa Martinez, Medical Officer James Taylor, and Science Officer Anna Petrov. They could have repaired their ship and continued home. Instead, they chose to help us. Ben watched his grandfather working alongside the Zephyrans, using hand gestures and simple drawings to communicate before the language barriers were overcome. He saw the same focused expression his grandfather had always worn when solving difficult problems back on Earth. "How do you know all this?" Ben asked. "We recorded everything," Princess Vera said. "Every moment of those 6 months is stored in these crystals. Your grandfather and his crew became legends among our people. We call them the First Guardians. The hologram showed the construction of the evacuation fleet. Ben was amazed to see how the humans had adapted their technology to work with Zephyrin crystal systems. They built hybrid ships that combined the best of both technologies. The evacuation was successful, Princess Vera said. All 4 million Zephyrans reached this new world safely. But the solar storm that followed was more powerful than anyone expected. The final images showed the 6 humans standing together on the empty home world as the sky turned blood red. They had stayed behind to operate the planetary shields that would protect the last evacuation ships. When the solar storm hit, the shields held just long enough for the ships to reach safety. Then the transmission ended. They saved us all, Princess Vera said quietly. Every Zephyrin alive today owes their existence to the sacrifice of 6 humans who could have simply flown away. Ben felt tears running down his face. He had grown up hearing stories about his grandfather's courage and ingenuity, but he had never known the true scope of his heroism. "But why did you react so strongly when you saw me?" he asked. Princess Vera touched a crystal panel, and new images appeared. These showed detailed scans of the 6 human heroes, including genetic maps and physical measurements. "We studied your people extensively during those 6 months," she said. "We learned to recognize human genetic patterns, family lineages, and what you call DNA signatures. When I saw you, I immediately recognized the Walsh bloodline." Ben looked at the genetic displays, seeing the clear connection between himself and his grandfather. "But that still doesn't explain why you seemed so afraid." Princess Vera's crystal form dimmed with sadness. "Because of the forbidden resonance law. After the first guardians died saving us, our people swore a sacred oath. We would never again ask humans for help with our problems. The debt was too great. We owed them everything, and we had nothing left to offer in return." She gestured to more crystal recordings showing Zephyrin leaders making solemn vows before huge crowds of their people. "For 60 years, we have lived by this law," Princess Vera explained. "No matter what dangers we face, we cannot seek human aid. It would dishonor the memory of those who gave their lives for us." Ben began to understand. "But now your son is becoming unstable again, and you need help." "Yes," Princess Vera admitted. "Our astronomers detected the first signs 3 months ago. The same patterns that preceded the destruction of our original home world. We have perhaps 4 months before the solar storms reach critical levels. And seeing me here made you think that maybe the universe was offering help again, but you couldn't accept it because of your law." Princess Vera nodded, her crystal tears flowing freely now. "When I saw you, I felt hope for the first time in months. But hope is forbidden to us. We must face this crisis alone, even if it means the extinction of our people." Ben stood up, his mind racing. "That's insane. My grandfather and his crew didn't save you just so you could die from pride 60 years later." "You don't understand," Princess Vera said. "The debt is beyond repayment. How do you thank someone for your entire existence? How do you ask their descendants to sacrifice themselves again?" "You don't have to ask," Ben said firmly. "That's what you're missing. We're here already. My team and I came here to negotiate mining rights, but maybe that was just an excuse. Maybe we're here for the same reason my grandfather was, because people need help, and that's what humans do." Princess Vera stared at him. "But the law." "Laws can be changed," Ben interrupted. "Especially stupid ones that prevent you from saving lives." He activated his communicator and called his team. "Lisa, Tom, Maya, I need you in the archive immediately. Emergency meeting." While they waited for his team to arrive, Princess Vera showed Ben more records from the Zephyrin archives. He learned that his grandfather had been fascinated by crystal technology and had spent many hours working with Zephyrin engineers to understand it. He said that humans and Zephyrans think differently, Princess Vera explained. "You see problems and immediately start looking for solutions, even impossible ones. We see problems and calculate the mathematical probability of success before acting. That's why you needed each other," Ben realized. Human creativity and Zephyrin precision. His team arrived breathless and worried. Ben quickly explained everything he had learned, showing them the holographic records of his grandfather's mission. "That explains so much," Tom said, staring at the images. "The cultural restrictions, the way they've been treating us, Princess Vera's reaction to you. They see us as mythical heroes instead of just people." Maya was already scanning the crystal archives with her instruments. "Ben, this technology is incredible. If we could combine our current space engineering with these crystal systems, we might actually be able to build solar shields powerful enough to protect an entire planet." "The same thing my grandfather tried to do," Ben said. "Except this time, maybe we can do it without anyone having to die." Lisa was studying the astronomical data the Zephyrans had shared. "The timeline is tight, but not impossible. If we start immediately and work around the clock, we might be able to construct a planetary defense grid before the solar storms reach peak intensity." Ben turned to Princess Vera. "Will your people work with us? Or are they going to let everyone die because of a law made 60 years ago?" Princess Vera was quiet for a long moment, her crystal form shifting through different colors as she considered his words. "I am the heir to the throne," she said finally. "I have the authority to declare a state of emergency and temporarily suspend certain laws. But many of my people will resist. They believe accepting human help again would be an insult to the memory of the first guardians." "Then we'll have to convince them," Ben said. "Starting with you. Do you think my grandfather would want your people to die rather than accept help from his grandson?" Princess Vera's crystal form brightened suddenly, and for the first time since Ben had met her, she smiled. "No. Patrick Walsh was very clear about that. He said that helping others was not a sacrifice to be repaid, but a gift to be passed forward." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Princess Vera called an emergency session of the Zephyrin High Council while Ben's team worked with Zephyrin scientists to design a planetary defense system. The debates in the council chambers were heated, with many older Zephyrans insisting that the forbidden resonance law could not be broken. But Princess Vera was persuasive. She played recordings of Patrick Walsh's final messages, in which he specifically asked the Zephyrans to continue helping others as they had been helped. "The first guardians did not die to create a debt," Princess Vera argued. "They died to create a future. If we throw that future away now, their sacrifice becomes meaningless." Meanwhile, Ben worked with Maya and the Zephyrin engineers to adapt human shield technology to work with crystal amplification systems. The principle was similar to what his grandfather had attempted, but 6 decades of technological advancement made it much more feasible. "We'll need to build 12 orbital platforms," Maya explained to the combined human Zephyrin team. "Each one equipped with hybrid shield generators that can link together to create a protective barrier around the entire planet." A Zephyrin engineer named Tone raised a concern. "The power requirements are enormous. Our crystal matrices can generate and store vast amounts of energy, but channeling it precisely enough for shield work will require incredibly accurate frequency modulation." "That's where human engineering comes in," Ben said. "We're good at building systems that work even when they shouldn't. Adaptability and backup plans." Tom was working on the logistics. "We have 4 months to build and deploy 12 orbital platforms. That means we need to complete one platform every 10 days while simultaneously preparing the next ones." "Impossible by traditional standards," said Princess Vera. But the first Guardians accomplished many impossible things. The Zephyrin High Council finally agreed to accept human assistance, but only after Princess Vera threatened to abdicate and build the shields herself if necessary. Work began immediately. Ben had never been part of a project that moved so fast or involved such close cooperation between 2 different species. The Zephyrans' crystal technology could grow and shape materials at the molecular level, while human engineering provided the flexibility and redundancy needed to make complex systems reliable. The first orbital platform was completed in 8 days. The second took only 7 days as both teams learned to work together more efficiently. By the end of the first month, they had 4 platforms in orbit and were ahead of schedule. But the solar activity was increasing faster than expected. "We're seeing Class X solar flares now," reported Dr. Lisa Chen during one of their daily briefings. "And the magnetic field readings indicate something much worse is coming." Princess Vera consulted the crystal archives. "The records from our home world show this same pattern. We have perhaps 6 weeks before the main storm sequence begins." "Then we push harder," Ben said. "Double shifts for everyone. We'll build the remaining platforms in parallel instead of sequence." The next month was exhausting. Ben found himself working 18-hour days, catching quick naps in crystal chambers that somehow restored his energy more efficiently than normal sleep. His team pushed themselves to their limits, and the Zephyrans matched their dedication. Princess Vera worked alongside them, using her authority to cut through bureaucratic delays and her technical knowledge to solve engineering problems. Ben was impressed by her intelligence and determination. She reminded him of the stories his grandfather used to tell about people who could accomplish anything when lives were at stake. With 2 weeks remaining before the predicted solar storm, they completed the 11th orbital platform. The 12th was under construction in the orbital shipyards, but several critical components were still being manufactured on the planet's surface. That's when the early storm hit. Ben was in the orbital control center when the alarms started screaming. Through the transparent crystal walls, he could see the sun flaring bright white, throwing off massive streams of charged particles. "Emergency protocols," he shouted. "All personnel to shielded areas immediately." The first 11 platforms activated automatically, their shields linking together to form a protective barrier over most of the planet. But there was a gap where the 12th platform should have been, and the solar storm was heading directly for it. "The gap covers the northern continent," Princess Vera reported, her voice tight with fear. 2 million Zephyrans live in that region. Ben stared at the tactical display, his mind racing through options. The incomplete 12th platform was in the orbital construction yard, its shield generators installed but not yet calibrated. If they could somehow get it into position and activate it manually, they might be able to close the gap in time. "Maya, can we move that platform?" Maya checked her engineering readouts. "The propulsion systems are online, but we'd have to control it manually from here. And someone would need to be on the platform itself to calibrate the shield generators." "I'll go," Ben said immediately. "Absolutely not," Princess Vera protested. "It's too dangerous. The radiation levels during calibration could kill you." "Not if I work fast," Ben replied. "Besides, this is exactly the kind of job my grandfather would have volunteered for." Princess Vera's crystal form flared with emotion. "I will not watch another Walsh die to save my people." "Then come with me," Ben said. "Zephyrin crystal technology can handle radiation better than human biology. You calibrate the generators while I handle the manual controls." It was a desperate plan, but it was their only option. Ben and Princess Vera took a small transport ship to the orbital construction yard while Maya and the other engineers prepared to remotely pilot the incomplete platform into position. The 12th platform was massive, nearly a mile long and bristling with crystal arrays and shield emitters. Ben and Princess Vera reached the control center just as the solar storm's leading edge hit the planet's outer atmosphere. Initiating manual flight control, Ben announced over the communication system. The platform shuddered as its engines fired, slowly moving toward the gap in the defensive grid. Princess Vera was working frantically at the crystal control interfaces, her hands dancing over harmonic keyboards that sang with each touch. "Shield generators are responding, but the frequency alignment is very unstable. I need more time." Through the control room windows, Ben could see the approaching storm front. It looked like a wall of golden fire stretching across space, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Time is the one thing we don't have," he said, pushing the platform's engines to maximum power. They reached the gap in the defensive grid just as the main body of the solar storm arrived. The other 11 platforms blazed to life, their shields creating a brilliant protective dome over most of the planet. But the gap remained, and the storm was pouring through it like water through a broken dam. Shield generators are almost ready, Princess Vera sang, her voice harmonizing with the crystal controls. But I need perfect frequency alignment, or the shield will collapse. Ben looked at the radiation monitors and saw that they were already in the danger zone. In a few minutes, the levels would become lethal for humans. But Princess Vera's crystal physiology could handle much higher doses. Vera, listen to me, he said urgently. I'm going to have to leave you here to complete the calibration. The radiation is getting too strong for me. Princess Vera turned to stare at him, her crystal eyes wide with shock. No. I won't let you sacrifice yourself like your grandfather did. I'm not sacrificing myself, Ben said, moving toward the emergency airlock. I'm trusting you to finish the job. Just like my grandfather trusted your people to build a new life on this world. Before Princess Vera could protest further, Ben sealed himself into the emergency escape pod. Through the transparent walls, he could see her working desperately at the crystal controls as radiation alarms screamed around her. The escape pod launched just as Princess Vera completed the shield calibration. The 12th platform's generators came online with a sound like thunder, and a brilliant barrier of energy sealed the gap in the planetary defense grid. The solar storm hit the completed shield system like a tsunami hitting a seawall. For a terrifying moment, the barriers flickered and wavered under the incredible assault. Then the 12 platforms linked together, their combined power creating a shield strong enough to turn aside even the fury of an angry star. Ben's escape pod was caught in the edge of the storm, its systems overwhelmed by electromagnetic interference. He lost consciousness as the pod tumbled through space, carried away from the platform by the storm's incredible energy. He woke up 3 days later in a crystal medical facility on Zephyra. Princess Vera was sitting beside his bed, her crystal form dim with exhaustion but glowing with relief. The shields held, she said softly when she saw that he was awake. The storm passed over us like wind over a mountain. Your grandfather would be proud. Ben struggled to sit up, feeling weak but alive. What about the platform? Are you all right? Crystal physiology is more resistant to radiation than human biology, Princess Vera explained. I was able to complete the calibration and return safely. But Ben, the storm was worse than our worst predictions. Without that 12th platform, the northern continent would have been completely sterilized. Over the next few days, Ben learned the full scope of their success. The planetary defense grid had not only protected Zephyra from the solar storm, but it had done so without losing a single life. The hybrid human Zephyran technology had exceeded all expectations. More importantly, the cooperation between the two species had created something unprecedented. Zephyran crystal technology combined with human engineering had produced innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. We want to make this partnership permanent, Princess Vera said during the official celebration ceremony. Not just for trade, but for exploration and discovery. Together, we could help other worlds facing similar crises. Ben stood before the assembled crowds of both humans and Zephyrans, thinking about his grandfather and the choice he had made 60 years ago. Patrick Walsh had seen people in danger and decided to help, regardless of the personal cost. Now Ben had the chance to build something lasting from that sacrifice. My grandfather always said that the best way to honor a gift is to pass it forward, Ben said. The Zephyran people received the gift of a second chance. Humanity received the gift of new friends and new knowledge. Maybe it's time for both of our peoples to work together to give those same gifts to others who need them. The crowd erupted in musical cheers from the Zephyrans and enthusiastic applause from the humans. Princess Vera stepped forward and placed a crystal pendant around Ben's neck. The first token of the new human Zephyran alliance, she said. May it shine as brightly as the courage of those who made it possible. As Ben looked out at the crowd of two species celebrating together, he felt a deep sense of completion. His grandfather's mission had been successful beyond anyone's wildest dreams. The 6 humans who had died saving the Zephyrans had planted seeds that grew into something magnificent. But perhaps more importantly, Ben had learned something about himself and his own place in the universe. Sometimes the greatest adventures begin not with a plan or a mission, but with the simple decision to help someone in need. The crystal pendant around his neck hummed softly, resonating with the harmonic frequencies of Zephyr. It was a beautiful sound, full of hope and possibility. It was the sound of two peoples who had chosen to face the future together.